Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Chew on This with Josue Chew Sports Show. Thank you so much for making me and us a part of your morning. Coming off of an amazing weekend of sports, in my opinion, and whether you're a fan of the MLB, whether you're a fan of the NFL, whether you're a fan of the NBA, you got to catch all three of these major leagues and all three of the professional athletes that play in these leagues. The NFL, week 4, well underway with 2 games last night. I'll talk a little bit about that later. And with the NBA, we saw Friday night, Sunday night, games 2 and 3 of the finals between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Miami Heat. So I'm going to go ahead and start there. First of all, I just want to say I predicted the Lakers would win in 6. Actually, no, I said the Lakers would win in 5. Which means that they had to lose 1 game. And this is the game I am predicting them to lose, which was game 3. I figured if they go up 2-0, Miami will have some sort of, virtuoso performance by a player, in which they did with Jimmy Butler. And the Lakers will also have to have a bad game. Because anytime the Lakers have a good game, on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, they are basically unbeatable. That was not the case Sunday night. Lakers had a poor performance. LeBron James did not play up to his standards. Anthony Davis got into foul trouble early on. So he never really got a rhythm. And ended up finishing with 15 points, which is very unusual for Anthony Davis. He usually scores in the high 20s, low 30s. And so, all in all, the Lakers came out flat. They came out nonchalant. They came out like they were in a 2-0 lead, which they were. And Jimmy Butler basically willed his team to a victory. And I got to give him credit. Jimmy Butler came out and basically said, "This is my team. This is my ball. I'm going to do what I got to do to get this win." And what he did was very impressive. Had a 40-point triple-double, 13 assists, 11 rebounds. He did make 12 of 14 free throws, so he was very aggressive. He made the Lakers foul him. He got his teammates going. So I got to give Jimmy Butler credit where credit is due. And before the series started, I made a couple predictions about how I felt that the Miami Heat would do and what they needed to do in order to win the series or win a game or two, because they are massive underdogs in this series. And I said Jimmy Butler has to be aggressive. He can't, those games in the playoffs that they were winning where he would score 6 points, or he would score 12 points, or he would score 14 points. That's not going to cut it against the Lakers. He needs to have 30 to 40 points a night in order to win against these Lakers, because let's be honest, besides Andre Iguodala, maybe Jay Crowder, Jimmy Butler is really the only veteran on this Miami Heat team. They got a lot of young guys, a couple of guys that are out due to injuries. So Jimmy Butler needs to take, the rock out of these other youngsters' hands and just really take matters into his own hands, in which he did. And he was able to will his team to victory. Now, let me just say this. The Lakers played pretty poorly, right? And Miami didn't play particularly well, but Jimmy Butler did play very well. And the Lakers were leading by 2 points at one point in the fourth quarter. So this wasn't like, I know that Miami ended up winning by 10 points, but this was not a blowout game. And so if you're Miami and you're looking at this game, you're like, okay, we just got pretty much a once-in-a-lifetime performance with Jimmy Butler. And we had a couple of help from other players like Tyler Hero. Jay Crowder hit a couple threes. And we were losing by 2 points in the fourth quarter. That's not something to be happy about. Yes, you're happy you pulled off the victory, mostly because LeBron and Anthony Davis decided not to show up in the fourth quarter. And so when you're looking at the rest of the games in the series, you're like, well, what do we got to do? What do we have to do differently? Because Jimmy Butler's not going to have another 40-point triple-double. He's just not. In fact, I'm going to predict right here, right now, Jimmy Butler might score 20 points tonight in their game. In game 4? Might score 20 points if Miami's lucky. This is not who Jimmy Butler is. He doesn't go for 30 to 40 points a night. He's not a Kevin Durant where he just, gets out of bed, rolls out of bed, and just drops 30 like it's nothing. That's not who Jimmy Butler is. He's very up and down, inconsistent when it comes to his scoring, even though his effort, his hustle, his mentality, his toughness is always consistent. But that does not mean that his scoring is as consistent with those other attributes I just mentioned. So, with that being said, the Lakers are going to win the next 2 games. They're going to win, I don't know, what's that, title number, perhaps 17 for the Lakers franchise, which will either tie or put them up past the Celtics. I'd have to look that up. But, yeah, this is not going to happen again. Miami will not win another game. I predicted Lakers in 5. They basically gentlemen swept their whole way through a championship. First round, 4-1. Second round, they won 41. Third round, 41. Finals, I think they're going to win 4-1. And tonight, they may get Bam Adebayo back. Okay, kudos to you. This is the problem when having Bam on the floor. When Bam plays, Dwight Howard plays more for the Lakers. Well, why is that a problem? Dwight Howard isn't who he used to be. That's true. However, want to know why Jimmy Butler was so effective Sunday night against the Lakers? Because the Lakers didn't have their rim protection. Jimmy Butler did not shoot nor attempt one single three-pointer. All his points came within the mid-range or the paint. He took these Lakers defenders, whoever it was, whether it was KCP, Danny Green, LeBron, Kyle Kuzma, he took all these guys one-on-one, took them to the hole. And he was able to do that because the Lakers did not have their bigs on the floor. Why didn't they have their bigs on the floor? Because right now Miami is playing Kelly Olynyk or Myers Leonard. Both can stretch the floor and shoot the 3. What can't Bam Adebayo do? He is not a very reliable 3-point shooter. So it's almost like a, I guess, pick your poison type of thing with Miami. It's like, I don't want to say Bam is not effective, but in this series he basically is. Because you can throw someone like Dwight Howard, who's bigger than him, stronger than him, taller than him, longer than him. You could put him on Bam and basically shut him down. And on the offensive side of the ball, he makes Bam work. Bam's got to box him out, got to fight for every rebound, every loose ball, and that can wear you down if you're Bam Adebayo. But if you're Kelly Olynyk and if you're Myers Leonard, when you're in the game, Dwight Howard's rarely in the game because you're forcing Dwight to play in the perimeter, and that's not what the Lakers want to do. If you're going to have a guy who's going to play around the paint area or around the mid-range area, that plays in the Lakers' favor. So if Bam Adebayo comes back, I don't think he's going to make much of a difference. Moving on. So on to other NBA news. Doc Rivers, most notably known for his epic failure and collapse with the Los Angeles Clippers a few weeks ago. He recently, as in like 2 days ago perhaps, accepted the Philadelphia 76ers coaching job. And it's not a surprise to me that he chose this job. However, I was surprised when he did go for an interview, and after he had accepted the head coaching position for the Sixers, he said that he was basically done with basketball. He said he was going to take a year off, maybe spend some time with some family, get off your legs a little bit, clear your mind out a little bit. And it seemed like he made it seem like he was taking a year off basketball. Kind of like what Mike McCarthy did for the Cowboys. After he got fired from Green Bay, took a year off, spent some time in his cabin up in maybe Idaho, who knows. And that's what Doc Rivers was going to do. But he said Philly. He got a phone call from Philly. Probably Elton Brand, who's the Philadelphia 76ers general manager. And he accepted the job. And so I'm not surprised he did. Of all the head coaching positions available right now, I would say the Sixers is probably the most um, sought after if you want to be a head coach, mostly because of their two talented stars in Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. And even though a lot of people don't think they can play well together, I think they can play well together. They just need to do it or get someone to make them do it. And unfortunately, Brett Brown, he probably tried, but Brett Brown wasn't like one of those alpha coaches like Doc Rivers is. And when Doc Rivers is coaching you, you listen. That's how he's been. That's how all the players who've played under him have known him to be. And when he says something, you do it. Except when you're the Clippers. I guess they decided not to listen to him, or he just wasn't preaching the same message as he was when he was with the Celtics. I don't know. So, I like the hire for Philly. Doc Rivers knows how to coach stars. He's coached them basically his whole life, even starting in Orlando when he had Tracy McGrady. He had, the big three in Boston, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen. And then he went on to the Clippers where he had, Lob City, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. And then he got Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell. And even though that didn't work out, and he became ultimately the fall guy, which, by the way, I don't agree with. I don't think Steve Ballmer, who's the owner, basically, there's been reports out there that Steve Ballmer wanted to fire everyone. Probably Kawhi Leonard himself too. He was so furious, and he seemed like a very intense guy. So I'm sure he's a very intense owner, and he wanted to basically fire everyone. But he didn't. Instead, he fired Doc Rivers. Been there for 7 years, never got to a conference championship. So I understood the firing. I wouldn't have done it personally. I would have given Doc Rivers and the Clippers one more year to figure it out, considering Kawhi Leonard and Paul George is the first year there. But it is what it is, and it happened. And so now Doc Rivers, you're going to Philadelphia. We have two young, great stars, in my opinion. I love Ben Simmons. I probably like Ben Simmons more than anyone else for one reason, and it's actually two reasons. One, he's a 6'10" point guard. That's like Magic Johnson, but taller. And he can run like Magic. He can run like LeBron. And he can pass. Probably not as good as them, but he can pass very, very well. And two, he's an elite defender. He's 6'10". He's very long. He plays in the perimeter. If you want him to shut down any one of the guards on the opposing team, he can, because he can keep up with them, and he has the length in order to, alter their shots or whatnot. So I like Ben Simmons a lot. Joel Embiid, I have mixed feelings about him. Some days he goes hard, some days he doesn't. Some days he looks in shape, some days he looks like he's never ran a day in his life. He's very inconsistent in that way, but when he's consistent, boy, is he good, and boy, is he effective. And so Doc Rivers will probably get them to play well together. They got to surround both of these young stars with shooters, because they both like to play in the rim or around the rim. So I think it'll be fine. They're not going to win anything. You still got Giannis in the East. You got Miami in the East. You got KD and Kyrie and the Brooklyn Nets in the East. So if you're Philly, you got your work cut out for you if you're trying to go to the finals anytime soon. All right, quick break. When we come back, we'll jump into some NFL. We got more COVID situations going on in the NFL. I'll talk a little bit about that. And then later on in the show, after a weekend of football, on Tuesdays I like to get my power rankings. Usually I like to see what teams should be in my top 5 list. I call them the NFL Chew rankings, because this is the Chew on This with Josue Chew Sports Show. Thank you for tuning in. We'll take a quick break. Be right back in a minute. Welcome back to Chew on This with Josue Chew. Now, before I get into this, I believe last week I went on the air and I talked a little bit about the Titans and their COVID situation, and it was bad. They literally had players every day test positive for COVID. They tried to postpone the game last weekend against the Steelers to like yesterday or today, and it was just like there's too many tests, there's too many positive tests, so it got postponed. I don't know when it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen sometime later on in the season, but it got postponed. So basically, the Titans and the Steelers didn't play last weekend. In case you're wondering, or I don't know if anyone's wondering if the Titans and the Steelers were playing, but in case anyone was wondering, the Steelers and the Titans did not play last weekend because the Titans had too many positive COVID tests. And I basically came to the idea that it's going to be very hard to cancel or postpone a season, in my opinion, if you're the NFL or the MLB or the NBA or whatever, when you're already this far into it. And so I was basically saying that it needs to get managed. There's no other way to put it. You can't cancel the season because, 8 or 10 people on a, 83-man roster, along with like 20 or 30 coaches and trainers. You can't just cancel a season and 5 out of like 100 people test positive. You just got to manage it. You got to set them out, make them quarantine, allow them to get better, and then when they're better, they can get back on the field. And so what's bizarre about this whole thing was that I believe on Friday night or Saturday morning, Cam Newton, quarterback of the New England Patriots, tested positive for COVID. And so when I heard the news, my first thought was, wow, the Patriots and the Chiefs game was already postponed because there were a Chiefs player got COVID, and so they wanted to make sure that they had an extra day of testing to make sure both these players on each team were okay. Turns out Cam Newton is the only Patriots player that tested positive for COVID. So he basically didn't spread it to anyone. Either he's practicing really, really, really good social distancing when he's in practice, when he's in the field room, or I guess he must not be doing it outside of that because he contracted the virus one way or another. But it was very bizarre that he was the only one, no other coaches, no other players on the Patriots tested positive for COVID. And so that was very interesting to me and didn't make any sense because usually when one player gets it, you got to have at least a couple other ones. And so what's even more weirder was that yesterday when the Chiefs and the Patriots play, the Patriots took 2 different planes to Kansas City. One plane with players who were perfectly fine, or actually I should say this. One plane had about 20-something players who had been around Cam Newton during the week. They all tested negative for COVID, but they were around him, meaning they were in the huddles with him, they were in the film room with him, they might have been in the same training, session with him. And so, you have to let the team know, oh yeah, on Tuesday, me and Cam were, hitting the bench press together or whatever. Or on Wednesday after practice, me and Cam were throwing balls or whatever. And so these guys took a different plane than the other guys on the team, because if we know this, COVID sometimes doesn't show up untested until like 3 to 7 days after you got it. And so they had to make sure that the 20 people who were around Cam Newton weren't around the rest of the team. And so we'll wait to find out today, most likely, on if there's any positive tests between the Patriots and the Chiefs, because they did play last night. And after every game, the players get tested again just to make sure that they don't go into their practice facilities or their team facilities throughout the week and prepare for the next week's game. And so we'll wait and see what the results are about that, and if, any Patriots player or Chiefs player may have gotten it during the game yesterday. And so it's pretty crazy that we're talking about a global pandemic while there's sports going on, and it's bizarre, and it's nothing I've ever seen in my life. And of course I'm still young, but I don't think I'll ever see anything like this for the rest of my life. And I'm here talking about NFL and a virus at the same time. It's bizarre. It's really crazy. And so then you go to Las Vegas, where the Raiders, recently moved from Oakland to Vegas. And there was about 10 players for the Vegas Raiders who got fined because they weren't wearing masks or practicing social distancing or any other CDC guidelines, rules at a charity event. And the NFL found out about it, saw pictures and videos of players not wearing their mask, and fined them. And so, what I don't understand is how these players don't have the self-awareness to realize that you probably shouldn't go to a charity event. Two, if you want to do it, you're probably going to have to do it virtually, like on Zoom or something. And three, if you're going to do it, at least follow the guidelines. At least wear a mask. At least social distance. And at least don't have 50 plus people at the event. In which there was 50 plus people at the event. And so, of course, the NFL found out about it, fined all those guys. By the way, all the fines that the NFL is receiving for COVID is going to charities, so it's not like, the NFL is getting richer. And so, if you're the Raiders, and I believe John Gruden went in a press conference and had to talk about it, and he seemed like he didn't want to talk about it at all. But if you're the Raiders, come on. If you're anyone else in the NFL, come on, you should know better. Why put not only yourself at risk, but your teammates at risk, your family at risk, other people around you at risk, your trainers, your coaches? Like, why risk it? And I get it, it's for a good cause, for a charity event, but there's got to be another way. There's got to be another way. Find a different way. And so the NFL is getting stricter with these rules now. They're not messing around. They're handing out fines left and right. Whole lot of charities getting a lot of money this year. You got coaches not wearing masks on the sidelines, fined. If you're a player and you're not dressed up or suited up ready to play and you're not wearing a mask, fined. And so now the NFL said that they're going to start considering taking away draft picks from these teams. And they're also going to start considering forfeiting the games. So if you're the Tennessee Titans and you keep getting all these COVID testing and the NFL has to postpone a game and have another level of stress added to them, trying to squeeze in a game in like week 15 between you and the Steelers because your players and your coaches or whoever the case may be decided not to practice social distancing or didn't wear a mask when they needed to and decided to spread the virus throughout their team facility, then they're just going to say, you know what, Tennessee Titans, the Steelers have no test or no positive test. You have about 20. You're losing that game. Congratulations. Undefeated season is no longer in your books. The Titans are 3-0 right now, but you know what? The NFL might say, hey, you're 3-1 now. Steelers, you're 4-0. Congratulations. You won without even stepping on the field. And so I commend the NFL for doing this. They got to be strict about it. By the way, they are kind of the leader in this. Because next year, when the MLB returns, when the NBA returns, there's still going to be a global pandemic going on. Vaccinations won't be available in 2 days, like everyone might think that they will be. So the NFL is basically setting the tone for how to run a league during a pandemic when you're not in a bubble. So it was easy for the NBA to do it because they were in a bubble. Next season, there's already reports saying that players and coaches and owners in the league does not want to have another bubble. And so everything the NFL is doing, they're setting the tone for, whether it's for the NBA, whether it's for hockey, whether it's for baseball, whomever, at least team sports-wise. Tennis is different. You only get, it's only one player out there. And so the teams and these players better start listening, or you're just going to start getting some L's without even stepping 1 foot on the field. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL couldn't squeeze in a Titans and Steelers game, so they say, you know what, Titans, you lost, Steelers, you win, congratulations, go play your next game. And I wish all these players well, speedy recoveries, of course, Cam Newton, all these guys. All right, chew on this with Josue. Chew. Quick break, right back. We've got about 15 minutes left in the show, and I'm gonna get into I'll tell you guys my NFL Chew Power rankings and my top 5 teams. Talk a little bit more about football, and then we'll end the show there. Be right back. And welcome back to Chew on This with Josue Chew. Now, let's get right into some NFL. So, every Tuesday, I like to come in and give my power rankings, fresh off of a weekend of football. We got Thursday night, we got Sunday night, all day Sunday, and Monday night football. So, it's Tuesday, week 4 is officially over. Every team played except for the Steelers and the Titans because that game got postponed due to COVID. And let's get into it. By the way, last week, I had the Chiefs at number 1, the Seahawks number 2, the Ravens number 3, the Packers number 4, and the Bucks number 5. This week, a little switch up, but it's not that different. 1, Chiefs, still the best team in the NFL. Why? They're finding ways to win in a variety of ways. And by that I mean they're either running the football effectively. If the run game's not working, they're passing the ball effectively. If the passing game is not working, they're finding ways to win games. Their defense is getting better. A little quick note on the side: the Chiefs are the first team or the first franchise in the NFL to win their first 4 games, so 4-0 in 4 straight seasons. They did the first year 4 years ago with Alex Smith, and then 3 straight years with Patrick Mahomes. Very impressive stuff. The Chiefs have always been really, really good in September and early October. Why? It's not because of the warmth. It's not because it's not cold yet in Kansas City. But I think it's because Andy Reid, who is an offensive-minded coach, draws up these ridiculously, effective offensive plays that defenses just aren't ready for. And they slowed down toward the middle and the back end of the season because there's more film on the Chiefs and they could get an idea of what Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, may I add, the offensive coordinator, because he's the one that called the plays. Teams start getting a hold of exactly what they do, and they can slow them down a tad bit. But I still got the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl this year, and I do think they are the best team in the league. Number 2, Seattle Seahawks. Why? Russell Wilson. Another impressive performance from them last weekend. The defense still needs a lot of help, but Pete Carroll, the head coach, is a defensive-minded coach, and I am going to trust that he knows what he's doing, and he's going to have his defensive unit ready towards the end of the season. Number 3, how about this? The Green Bay Packers. I know they beat the Atlanta Falcons last night, who aren't an impressive team, but it's not about beating a team. It's about how you beat a team. And they've been winning because of Aaron Rodgers. And it's been great because I haven't seen this Aaron Rodgers since 14 when he last won his MVP. Aaron Rodgers looks happy. He looks excited. He looks like he wants to play football. Under Matt LaFleur, he did not look that way under Mike McCarthy over the last couple of years of them being together. And so when you have and I'm going to talk a little bit about the Packers after this, but the Packers look very, very impressive. Number 4, Baltimore Ravens. I still think the Ravens are still a really good football team, even though they got shellacked by the Kansas City Chiefs a week ago. I do think their roster is too good. Their defense is very good, at least against everyone else not named Patrick Mahomes, and their offense is still good. My only concern, and the reason why I don't have the Ravens in my top 3, is because in my top 3, I get Mahomes, who's an elite thrower of the football. I get Russell Wilson, who's an elite thrower of the football. I get Aaron Rodgers, who's an elite thrower of the football. And then I get Lamar Jackson, who is a far better runner than he is a thrower. And so my concern for the Ravens is, what if your run game isn't working? Can you pass the ball? And the answer most likely is no. But you can pass the ball very effectively if you're running the ball effectively as well. So it all kind of has to work together if you're the Ravens. Lamar Jackson is still getting better as a passer, so I have faith that he'll, eventually become an elite, pocket quarterback. But I got to wait to see it, and so I got him at number 4. And number 5, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How about Tom Brady throwing 5 touchdowns in the second half of last weekend game? Very impressive stuff for a 43-year-old man. He's almost double my age. And actually, no, he's less than double my age. Well, the math on that was wrong. But anyways, the Bucks looks good. The defense looks very strong. Brady seems to be getting the chemistry down with his weapons, and also he doing it without a lot of his weapons. His tight end, unfortunately, O.J. Howard is out for the year, but they still have another good tight end. And Chris Godwin didn't play this past weekend, so him and Mike Evans have been, really forming that chemistry together. But as soon as they get Chris Godwin back, another elite receiver for them, they're going to be even more unstoppable. And on the outside looking in, I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. I had them on the outside looking in this year, or last week too. And the reason why I can't put them in my top 5 yet is they're beating up on a lot of bad teams. The best team they've played thus far have been the Rams, in which they could have lost if it wasn't for a controversial pass interference call. But they are undefeated. Josh Allen does look impressive. They're a very, very well-coached team. And we'll see what they got for the rest of the year. I want to see what they do against the Patriots because those two teams are fighting for, first place in that division. So those are my top 5 teams right now. And by the way, when I mention these top 5 teams and 6, these are the teams I think can win the Super Bowl. Like, for sure. Like, one of these 6 teams are going to win the Super Bowl. No doubt about it. I'm pretty confident in that. All right, so let's get. So I was gonna talk a little more about the Packers because they did play last night, and I got a chance to finally watch a Packer game. Before I was only able to see a couple Aaron Rodgers highlights, here and there, but I finally got to watch the game last night, and the Packers. What's most impressive about them is that they're missing 2 of their best receivers. Devontae Adams is one of the 3 best receivers in the league. He hasn't played in a couple of games, and then Lazard, who's been the second best receiver for them. He didn't play last night. But that didn't matter. And this is all I wanted to see with Aaron Rodgers. All I kept hearing over the last few years for the Packers and Aaron Rodgers is how Aaron Rodgers doesn't have weapons. He doesn't have receivers. He doesn't have tight end. He doesn't have a running back. This, that. And my thing was, okay, so you're Aaron Rodgers. Get it done. Throw your receivers open if you have to. If they're not creating separation against the defenders, throw them open. Throw it in pockets where only they can catch it. And so that's exactly what he's doing now. And that's all we wanted to see. So I don't know what has made Aaron Rodgers flip that switch this year. I don't know if it's because he's in his second year with a new head coach. And if he's happier, he did mention that the play calling from Matt LaFleur it has been exceptional and that he's been having a lot of fun with it because in the past, when Mike McCarthy would call plays, Aaron Rodgers was reported that he would be in the huddles rolling his eyes and just scoffing at the play calling, and oftentimes he would audible at the line to switch to get out of that play. But it seemed like him and Matt LaFleur are on the same page. And not only that, but it seems like Aaron Rodgers is sprinkling the ball around to a bunch of different of his weapons. And so his arm is elite. He still has a great arm. Probably the best after Mahomes, I would say. Or third best, maybe after Russell Wilson, because Russell Wilson's arm is very good now. And he's making smart decisions. The Packers don't have turnovers for the first 4 games of this year, which is very impressive, especially when Aaron Rodgers is throwing as much as he's throwing. Check out these numbers. 364 passing yards, 4 touchdowns in week 1. 240 passing yards, 2 touchdowns week 2. 283 passing yards and 3 touchdowns week 3. 327 passing yards and 4 touchdowns last night. Aaron Rodgers has been balling, and it's been good to see. If you're a Packers fan, might be some around here considering we're close to Wisconsin. Now when we talk about MVPs, like Russell Wilson, I believe is going to win it this year. And then Mahomes, I said was runner-up. But you got to start mentioning Aaron Rodgers now. I mean, dude's got, 13 touchdowns in 4 weeks. And, his team is 4-0. So when we mention MVPs, I don't want to hear nothing about Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson if we're not talking about Aaron Rodgers too. And so the last time he won it was in 24. I think the last time he was in the top 5 was in 2016. So it's been about 4 years since we've seen a good elite Aaron Rodgers, and we're finally getting it, and it's been great. By the way, Matt LaFleur's 17-3 in his first 20 games, which is I think the 3rd best ever of a coach. So he's on a, remember last year they went 13-3. This year they're 4-0. So some impressive stuff there going on in Green Bay. I think they have a very good chance to win the Super Bowl. I didn't pick them to win the Super Bowl. I had the Chiefs winning over the Seahawks, and then I had a dark horse Super Bowl pick in which I said the Steelers were gonna beat the Cowboys were gonna beat the Steelers. I should have said the Green Bay Packers, but I didn't. But it's okay. Now, about the Cowboys. I don't know what is going on with the Cowboys. They just seem. I don't know. I could pick a college football team right now who can probably play better defense than the Cowboys. Mike McCarthy seems like his teams just aren't ready to go when as soon as the kickoff is underway. They come out with such a nonchalant attitude. They don't execute in the defensive and offensive side of the ball in the first half. It's like, when you game plan for a team, you usually come out strong because your game plan works for the first couple of series until the other team decides to make adjustments, and then you got to make adjustments as well. But the Cowboys just come out flat every single week, and they have the weapons to not come out flat. So this is the coaching issue, in my opinion, with the Cowboys. Their defense is terrible. They gave up 300 yards rushing to the Browns, not passing, rushing. And I think Dak Prescott is throwing the ball too much. You got to find a way to get Ezekiel Elliott involved. You just paid Ezekiel Elliott a bunch of money. Make him work. And so Dak is throwing the ball way too much. He, of course, leads the league in yards because he's basically passing the whole game because they're down by 10 after like the first 3 minutes of the game. And so you got to pass to get back into the game. And it hasn't been working out. Change your game plan. Come out with a better game plan. Run the ball more if you're the Cowboys. Play better defense. I mean, you can't give up 300 yards rushing. That's like rare. That doesn't happen. It's 300 yards passing. Okay, it's a very happy passing league. That happens all the time. But when you're out here just letting dudes run around you out of the backfield for 300 yards, then either you got to fire a coach, you got to, bring up some practice players who want to make some money, because a lot of defensive guys on the Cowboys got paid, but nobody want to do the work. Bring up some practice squad dudes who are hungry, trying to make a name for themselves. I don't know. They got to do something. They got to figure it out. And they're America's team, which I don't understand because they haven't won in 25 years. But they're America's team, and they're just embarrassing America if that's the case. All right, a couple minutes left in the show. I forgot to get into this. But Texans, they fired Bill O'Brien. And Bill O'Brien was the head coach / GM for the Texans. Now, let me just say this. First of all, Bill O'Brien had a press conference after he got fired, which is like rare. I've never even heard of that in my life. Oh yeah, by the way, Bill O'Brien, you're fired. There's a press conference down the hall. You can go ahead and talk to him and tell him why you got fired. Very weird stuff. And so Bill O'Brien's talking about we didn't get it done. And I'm like, who's we? You're the head coach. You're the GM. You get it done. You traded away DeAndre Hopkins. You traded away a bunch of draft picks for Laramie Tunsil out of Miami, a left tackle to help protect Deshaun Watson, when you didn't draft a better player to avoid, giving away a bunch of draft picks for a left tackle. You built the team. You call the plays. This is your fault, Bill O'Brien. I'm talking about we. We didn't get the job done. You didn't get the job done. And by the way, can we stop trying to put people in like the same, at least like coaching category as Bill Belichick? No other coaches should be a GM in the NFL. That's Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick has been coaching for 20 plus years. He knows what he's doing. He knows personnel better than probably anyone in the league. He's been very effective at it. I mean, he has 6 Super Bowl rings on his fingers. So Bill O'Brien is a Bill Belichick, protege. He came under, Bill Belichick back in the day. And so he went to Houston, and Houston was like, oh, yeah, Belichick did the GM and the head coaching job pretty well. Can you do it? Yeah, I probably can. Yeah, that didn't work out very well, did it? So not only do you fire a head coach, who's also your GM, if you're the Texans, you got to find a GM. You got to find a head coach. Probably got to find offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, all these guys, because when a head coach comes in, they want to bring their own guys in. And I feel bad for Deshaun Watson because you just paid him a lot of money. His future is not looking bright because you don't have a line that protects him. You don't give him enough weapons. You trade away his best weapon. And it's just a mess. What a mess in Houston. And I hope Deshaun Watson gets, the coach that he wants. He probably should have a say in it. He got beat up in the first 4 years of his career thus far in Houston. Draft some better players. Draft an offensive line that protects him so he can at least have a future and maybe write out his contract in the next 4 to 5 years. So, all right, show's almost over. Actually, the show is over. Thank you so much for tuning in. Chew on this with Josue Chew. I will see you guys on Thursday. And Thursday, we'll get into some weekend games. We will talk about the NFL or the NBA Game 4, which is tonight at about, I think, 9 Eastern. So watch that. We'll talk about that Thursday. Be safe. Be easy. Peace and love.